God. Good morning to y'all. If you've just tuned in, you know you miss our AM news. But we've got the newspapers.
Yes.
One of the trending stories really is the fact that Dr. Stephen Opuning and one other appeared in court yesterday before an Accra High Court. There was
yesterday
massive...
I was monitoring the radio stations and it was interesting, especially Joy FM with the bulletins that are given, the short ones that are given in the beginning of each hour. It was quite interesting what the narrations were and what the supporters were. And there were some interesting posts also on Facebook about how some of them said, some of the supporters, so-called, or the NDC who had trooped to the courts, who didn't know why they were there. They said they were just there. I don't know whether some of those writers were formulated, because I feel they should be formulated.
Well, that's why two of our colleagues who were at the courts, there was one positioned outside the courts, and there was another one inside the courtroom giving us updates of procedures. So they're here, Kamla Adum, and then the man you see in your shot there, Joseph Akable. They will join us and tell us. They'll join us and tell us exactly how things went down yesterday. So they will be here on the show. But let's start off and do the newspapers. Let's tell you how the newspapers are reporting the news stories. Let me start with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. We don't have hold of the graphic yet.
As you prepare that, though, today is a birthday of Mabel Adiasani, your sales executive with Voltic Mineral Water Company. And this one is coming from Mr. and Mrs. Quaterson. Mabel, enjoy the time. I'm coming to your office for some bottles of Voltic.
That's all you know.
This one
that's
is a strong marketing tool.
I wonder what people can come to you for.
Well, they come to me for a lot of things.
Such as?
School fees. A lot of, you don't know the good that I do. You know, sometimes we don't have to praise some of the things.
So should I bring my bill?
You don't fall within free SHS. If you fall within free SHS.
Front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Here we go. Ghana safe for investment. President tells African CEOs. West Central Africa Transports Ministers, Director Generals of Maritime Organizations meet in Accra. That story is on page 18 in the paper. And then the banner headline, that's the story that everybody will be talking about today, is in the 217 million Ghana cedis financial loss case, Opuning Agongo trial begins. They plead not guilty. Court grants them bail. And we will tell you the back story in terms of the appearance, who was in court, who was not in court, what did someone say, what did somebody not say? Did they actually bus people from somewhere in the capital to the court? Did the people actually not even know why they had been taken to the courts?
But I also wanted to get some education, and I thought that today if we come, so I called some lawyers too, and I wanted us also to have the education. So, you know, sometimes the media, we've always been discussing issues when it comes to the content of the cases. And I got some education from some lawyer friends of mine who said that it's actually not done at all. That's it. You don't tend to discuss the content.
You don't talk about the substantive. In fact, that's why the court is there. That's why the court is doing its work.
So you leave them to do their work.
Yeah. In terms of the substance, we can talk about, you know, what Joseph and Kamla would tell us this morning in terms of how things happen.
For example,
But in terms of what is being battled within the court, we wait for the court to finish its work, and then we can do all the analysis.
We'll do what is needful.
Yeah, definitely. Let's stick to what's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times still. 2018 International World Press Freedom Day to be held in Ghana, and that it was yesterday launched here in Accra to, among others, encourage the Ghanaian media to patronize the event. I don't want to be by force. Okay, so let's see. Arrest Ghanaian immigrants syndicates. That's a story which is on page 3 in the Ghanaian Times. It says the Migrant Labour General Workers Union has urged government to, as a matter of urgency, initiate moves to arrest Ghanaian immigrant syndicates engaged in slavery activities against other Ghanaians in the Sahel region en route Libya. The statement signed and issued by Justice Bako and Tama, General Secretary of the Union, On the back of the union's National Executive Committee condemned the action of the Ghanaian immigrants and called for immediate actions to deter others from engaging in such inhumane practice. So details of that story in the Ghanaian Times newspaper on page 3. On the back page of the Ghanaian Times, ECOWAS, EU, others meet in Accra over strategic plan for GIS. That's the Ghana Immigration Service. And then GIS inaugurates clinic for staff and retired officers. So you can safely say that the back page of the Times is dedicated to the Ghana Immigration Service. 2 stories relating to them on the back page of the paper, the Ghanaian Times. All right, well on.
Right, so we have the Daily Guide newspaper, and it has on the front page, AG, Attorney General eyes 25 years for Puni over 217 million Ghana cedi fraud. And the story says that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice has indicated that the former Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Dr. Stephen Opuni, could face up to a 25-year jail term if found guilty of receiving 25,000 Ghana cedis as bribe from businessman Seydou Agongo. And the Attorney General, referring to the suit filed, stated that he allegedly, as one of the Trump charges, received 25,000 bribe to influence the work of his work, the performance of his work in awarding Agricole Ghana Limited a contract to supply a fertilizer to Cocoa Board. All right. Let's get to other stories also on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. NDC military deal with US for Parliament. And then also we have Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire. They've signed a cocoa pact or agreement. That's quite an interesting one because the president was heard yesterday commenting about how between the two they only receive about $5.5 billion of proceeds or receipts of exports. And he was still worried that we're not able to turn the cocoa beans or the paste into any secondary material beyond the initial primary. And that's a great concern because the best chocolates don't come from Ghana. You just have to go to the main shops in Ghana and get to have Swiss chocolates. You get to know. Even
I disagree with you. I think in Ghana we have the best chocolate comes from our chocolate factory in Tema. Golden Tree is the best chocolate.
True. Yeah. Amen. Amen. I know. Patriotism makes you.
No, but that's my thinking. So I'm not forcing you to agree with me.
I actually take it very often than you think. Each week I have a guy in the traffic from from the beginning of around the Electoral Commission area on the main Kanda Highway. And he's always giving golden chocolates. The other ones are full of a lot of sugar and all that. So
see.
All right.
Okay, so you're through.
I think I'm through. I usually would do the center spread.
Yeah. What can I do?
Yeah. So the center spread. It says Stonebwoy has set a record on Billboard Watch. I'm told that popular artist and leader of Beam Nation, Stonebwoy, has set a record of being the first Ghanaian artist resident in Ghana to have his album on the Billboard World Album Chart, and his album Epistle of Mama was ranked 13th on the world.
See, I said the other one, he's a local champion.
Well, I like both. I like both. But I think that
I like both too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying one is a local champion.
I love the work rate of the other. Yeah. I love the work rate.
Saturday Town. Okay, so Joseph Akablay
Sharawali
and Komla Aduma joining us because
Sharawali is the champion.
Yes. They want to hear things that happen in time. Good morning, guys. Good morning. You're good?
Joseph, how are you?
I'm very well.
Great. It's nice meeting the two of you once again on the set. You had been a regular. I thought you'd be a regular, but you decided to be going away.
I'm still around.
You're still around.
So the two of you were in court here. So was that the initial plan?
Yes, it was the initial plan because we realized we expected a lot of people to make it to the courtroom outside, and we expected some action to take place there.
Some great drama.
It will be too difficult for one person to monitor the two, especially when proceedings start. You'll be unable to get out. So Akomla took care of it outside.
What time were you there?
We got there around about 8 a.m. By 8:30 it was 9. We were already in the courtroom.
And what was the atmosphere?
At that time, you have a long queue outside the court's premises, the law court complex, in order to gain access to the main structure. A long queue because of the screening that takes place downstairs. When I climbed upstairs, the same thing was taking place right at the entrance to land court 11, where the appeals court judge is sitting as an additional high court judge to hear this case. Long queue outside at about 9 a.m. The entire courtroom was full. You had lots of people standing inside the courtroom.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yes. Even though we had been informed hearing will start at 12:30.
Okay, but Kamla, you were outside.
Yes.
Was the action different?
Well, the action itself began at about 10, some 15 minutes past 10, where the people were actually bussed to the premises of the law court complex. Well, we are told these are NDC sympathizers.
Did they have any insignia?
Well, I heard somebody vehemently disagree with it.
Well, some of them were wearing NDC T-shirts, and some of them told me that they were actually bussed there by NDC executives. So they were at home, for example.
Do you know where specifically they were bussed from?
Jamestown, some told me. Abosio Kainzongo, some told me. So these were the two main areas that these people were coming.
How many bus loads did you see?
I saw 2 bus loads of people. And then later on in the day, another group of people emerged from the other side of the complex, but they were not in a bus. They were just marching and drumming and dancing.
Joseph, you were reporting the personalities who had appeared in courts to listen in to the proceedings.
A lot of them, I mean, starting from former Chief of Staff Julius Debra, he was present in court. We had the former Attorney General Mariata Briapiopon with her Deputy Dr. Dominic Ayene. There was the former Petroleum Minister Emmanuel Amakofibua. There was Elizabeth Ajari, she's a former Tourism Minister. In terms of the NDC as a party, its General Secretary Johnson Esiedu Nketia was present, National Organizer Kofi Adams. You also had Deputy Director of Communication Kweku Boahin, among others, all making it into the courtroom.
Wow. And then there was also heavy security outside.
Sure, Mama V, this was unusual of the courts. So in front of the courts, just right at the entrance, I could count as many as 15 armed police officials. And then to the extreme left, towards the National Theatre end of the Law Court complex, there was a police crowd control vehicle stationed there. And then to our right, which is towards the Arts Center area, there was also the 4 police units armored car station just right across the entrance. There were also some individuals who were clad in CID attire. I could count as many as 6 of them also. They
were wearing vests or jackets?
Yes,
that indicated that they were
CID, and they were also fully armed, holding guns and standing right in front of the entrance of the law court complex.
Because I thought CID were supposed not to be showing themselves.
Yeah, but this time they were wearing a vest, so boldly inscripted behind the vest was CID.
Okay, but Joseph, you're a regular in court reporting, and so even though we're saying that this is quite unusual, is it also not unusual for people, whether they were troop bussed or were marching into a court premises, to be turned away?
It's a bit okay. The first thing is that you don't have people showing interest in cases more often than not. So on a normal day, assuming today you walk to that particular courtroom where this case was heard, I can assure you, you not have more than 10 individuals in the courtroom. The court takes about 70 people if you had to arrange them on all the seats. But you had about 100 people in the courtroom at a time. So the first thing we need to understand is that it's because of the numbers that came in. It was simply too much for the court to contain them. So that is how come the court manager herself, she is responsible for the entire law court complex. She had to come to that particular courtroom to try and control those who come in, simply because the numbers were just too much. When the judge also arrived, he also was unhappy that you had people standing in his court. He said he couldn't allow that. So this was after the screen had been done. And what was interesting is that at that point, those who were standing were largely lawyers who were not connected to the case. They had come on their own to come and monitor proceedings. So those were the lawyers who, when they came in, the seats had been taken, so they were all standing just behind where the lawyers sit. So the judge came in and said that, I mean, he doesn't think they should.
You can't stand in my court.
You can't stand in my courtroom. So at that point, I mean, they needed to give priority to the lawyers again.
So they had to get people to rise and make way for the lawyers?
The journalists were the target. Unfortunately, the journalists were the target. Party supporters, among others, were all seated in the courtroom. They opted for the journalists. You had an officer from the CID headquarters come in and inform us that, I mean, the lawyers are officers of the court, so in terms of priority, they should be given a priority. But the concern by some colleagues, including myself,
but they're court reporters. They are also.
If the lawyers are officers of the court, at least we know that they come to transact business. How about those who have also come in, those in terms of their supporters who are coming to witness proceedings? Because if we do not have access, the thousands who are outside may also not hear what is going on in court. So why not give us priority? But we ended up, a good number of us ended up vacating our seats for the lawyers to take the seats, and we had to stand in the middle. The judge was
at least he allowed you to stand.
Yes, the judge was still concerned, but we had to prompt. That is true. I mean, you'll be given priority, but the judge had to be prompted that those who were now standing were journalists. They said, okay, that's fine.
But usually, and back in the day when I also used to report to the courts, you get to find that maybe perhaps after 3 sittings, you get to find a lot of the crowd, but they are not usually associated with the political grandeur and all that exhibition that is attached to it. And so the judges are very receptive to the crowds then.
Yes.
How is that different from?
It's different in the sense that, I mean, this is early days. I mean, it's day one. Yeah. And you recall there have been a lot of talks about this particular prosecution being about witch hunting. So you expected a lot of the party bigwigs to want to be present in court. I mean, the very easy prediction I can do is that at the next court date, the top guys, they will not definitely be around. I mean, the number will dwindle. At least 1 or 2 of them may show up. So that means that the numbers that will be in the court must reduce. And then again, those who were allegedly bussed to the court's premises, we will expect that number to also dwindle. Not all of them will be interested in the case. By 2-3 hearings, that number would have dropped significantly. So it means that the courtroom will be getting empty. So at that point, anyone who wants to come into the courtroom will obviously be allowed in because there's much space for everyone.
Yeah, Kamla, whilst you were stationed outside, did you feel what was happening in the court? Did you know anything, or there were still people outside wanting to go in?
Well, there were still people outside wanting to go in. So before long, I realized there was a mini scuffle of a sort right in front of the entrance of the court complex. So I approached, and I found out that some of these individuals, they told me that they were NDC executives who had come to secure seats for the top political figures who were expected in court. So once those people came in, then they would vacate the seats and allow them in. But for some reason, they told me that the police CID began harassing them. They were sacking them and taking them out. So at that moment, you could feel some tension between the party supporters allegedly and the police officials at the court complex.
Yeah, that's Komladum there in your shot again here and there. Yeah. But how long did this whole procedure take?
So we're seated from 9 a.m. but court started around 12:30. That was when the case was officially called, and it ended at about 1:30 p.m. So around 1:30 we're done. They went for a short break, came back 5 minutes later. Then by 1:40 the judge finally adjourned the case.
Okay, so do they have they identified or announced specific court sitting dates?
A number of them are starting. The next immediate one is April 11. After that, we expect the same case. The Attorney General is to call her first witness. For such cases like we saw in the NCA one, the court tries to give it a bit of priority. And the judge is also an appeals court judge. He actually said he delayed in coming to court because he had to hear a case at the appeals court. So it means that he needs to fix dates that he doesn't have case at the appeals court. So they've settled on April 11 days, April 12 days, April 14 days, April 22. And so those are the immediate dates.
Sounds like it's going to be a speedy process.
We saw that in the NCA case. I mean, they blocked 2 days, Tuesdays and Thursday, just to devote to this particular matter. In fact, that judge had expressed that he wanted to deal with the matter within 6 months. But then something came up, issue of interpretation has been referred to the Supreme Court. So with this one, with the dates that have been fixed, and the interesting thing about this one is that you have just 2 defendants, unlike the NCA one where you have 5. Which means that when you present one witness, each lawyer has to take a turn to cross-examine that witness. In this particular case, you have just 2 individuals with a company which has also been sued. So the second person is also representing the company. So it means that when anyone gives testimony, only 2 lawyers will be cross-examining them. So it makes it a bit faster. So if nothing truncates it in terms of any aspect of the case that has to be referred to the Supreme Court, then with the directive that have been given by the judge in terms of fixing dates, we may expect it to travel a bit faster than usual.
Yeah. So, Kamla, you spoke to some people who were explaining why they were in court. We want to take a listen to that.
Okay. Namoni Kenya babenye mahali fan.
Over on kwa ko wa bia.
Me onukwa ejino.
Abenye wo yin so abenye lekegbe.
Shinje party nini?
Over Arabia ge endi so npa ko.
Okay. No anya Kenya fani ba.
Over
ni bohu ingbe anabo ye na chebo akeshin oba no ba.
About Jamestown and about na chewo ka jeje.
Wonyenye.
YP
bashed here by some party leaders of the NDC. They do not know exactly why, but they were just told that they were coming to hail one of their members who is suspected to be in court. They were warded off some 500 meters clear, with police keeping a close eye on them.
Because of train bill, 9 man bill, 9 on outside.
Oh, train some money bill now outside.
Now
time is now about.
Oh, yeah, baby, 9:30.
One person now buy now. Yeah, the bus,
the bus, the buy. Jamestown, charity.
Well, very interesting comments they're coming from. Those young people, even they didn't know the reason why, or they may not even be related, or know even the personality involved.
Yes, Roland, that's the case. But this was vehemently denied by the national organizer of the NDC. He says they didn't bus anybody to the place, but from what the people tell us, clearly they were going about their normal activities when a bus stops by, and they were told to get into the bus and get to the court premises to offer some form of support to the NDC individuals.
But earlier when I spoke to Kweku Buahin, the Deputy Director of Communications for the NDC, inside the courtroom, just when I entered, he, at that point when we were entering with Kamala outside, there were few people outside, just not more than 10. When I entered and I met him and I spoke to him, he told me that there were 5 buses heading towards the law court complex. On record, yes. We interviewed him, we aired that on the midday news on Joy FM. He said 5 buses were heading towards the court premises. So he said some were coming from Kumasi and he expected the numbers to be present. I asked him whether it was party-backed action. He said no, these are just simply members of the party who believe he has done no wrong. That is Dr. Opuni, for which reason they decided to come over and support him.
But to be fair, I mean, he's a political figure. He's a huge, significant member of the NDC. So this wouldn't be the first time that we're having a case, more of a political case being heard in courts. That in terms of the numbers, the people that we saw outside, how proceedings went, the support and everything, would you say that's unusual? This is different?
At least since this government took over, we've seen 2 cases, the other one being the NCA trial. And that was one question I tried to put to Kweku Buahin as to why it appears the party seems to be supporting Dr. Opuni compared to what is going on in the NCA case. Because in the NCA case, you don't see anyone outside.
Well, they're not direct party people, are they?
That is the situation. Exactly, because if you pick Eugene Bafuboni, former board chairman of the NCA, they are not people who are directly connected to the party. Same with Matthew Tevi, the former Director General of the NCA. So we can understand why. And especially with Dr. Opuni, you recall that just less than a week after President Akufo-Addo took over, he was the first individual who was handed his sack letter to proceed on leave until further notice. So the whole bit of politics in terms of feeling one being a true member of the party also comes into play. So in terms of the political case, it appears that if it's a case that the individual involved is directly connected to the party, the number will be large, and that will be maybe usual. You consider it that way.
Okay, Komla, make sure you commit no crime. DJ, we don't support each other. It doesn't happen. DJ will never support you. If you go and steal a pen at the stationery shops around the law school area, will not come. But in straightening some of the issues, these young people, per what your interactions were with them, do you think that for all intents and purposes, they would be in a position to come the next time around when there's a sit-in? Or sometimes they will again need to be having that rallying point from leaders of the NDC in their areas?
Yes, so from the interaction I had with them, the indication I get is that they were going to be coming to court until the end of the trial.
Besides, they live close by.
We went to see because, Joseph said that on day 1, everybody wants to be there, but when the case travels in the course of the period.
I remember the Chacho case. I was sent to court very often, and after some time, and you're also likely to see a lot of pressure groups springing up lately. Something action for this, something progressive for this, and all that.
All right, so great reporting there, great work. I mean, we got a true picture of what was happening in court.
But I think now journalism is good. You don't get beaten off, so that's okay.
From 10 a.m. So next court appearance is when?
April 11th.
April 11th. Yes. Okay, there's a certain debate just before we rise on this matter. We will revisit the court's issue when there's
now we are sitting as a court just before we rise.
Oh, But we'll have great guests in the studio on AM Talk later this morning to talk about, their perspective as well. Neil Ante van der Poel, he's not been on the show ever since, yeah. So I don't know if the NDC comes and this case is not true, has not been completely dealt with. Is there something that he and the NDC would do? I think it's a great question that we have to put to him. But
it's just post the first time Dr. Stephen Oponi is appearing in court that he's here because his commentary was on the same case.
Yeah. Okay. Emmanuel Chematin Ejako will be alongside Neil Ante van der Poel. So we just said it lightly, and somebody sent me a message. Mama V and Roland, were you saying that Shatawale is a local champion? Anyway, it is true. Stoneboy is lyrically better than Shatawale. This is Calcium who's sending this message, so I want you guys to have a bite on this.
I said the two of them were champions.
So you know, Stoneboy started this whole that Shatta won't let him rest, and then Shatta responded in the coolest way ever, like a Shatta. So, what do you think? Shatawale Stoneboy, lyrically?
I prefer Stoneboy. I mean, I enjoy his music more.
Yeah.
I'm able to hear what he says. I think he has an interesting
That's
story
an insult. That's an insult. You don't hear what Shatawale.
Kamla?
So my heart is Stoneboy, my head is Shatawale.
Oh, how?
I like his jam.
Shatta.
I mean, he doesn't say anything, but it's always a jam.
He makes you dance, right?
Yeah.
And then Stoneboy makes you think.
True.
But which one is better? All of them?
Both of them.
I prefer to think.
I know you love reading a lot of books. So
thank you guys for being on the show. Really, in terms of the stories, if you check online, if you look at the newspapers, really what is dominant is this court appearance yesterday, the beginning of a trial. Just day one. We've got many more days to go and many great reports coming your way from our guys, Joseph Akable and Komala Adam. So we'll end it here, make way for sports. There are a lot of great friendlies. I think today, is it Brazil and Germany playing? The last time they did play, I think it was 7-0, so 7 something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, after the World Cup, have they played a friendly then? No,
they haven't played. It was a serious game.
Yeah.
So
the
now
World
that
Cup.
It's a friendly, maybe it will be like 14-0. Who knows?
Well, before we go to sports, though, I have this one from our good friend Michael Amini. Easter is coming. It's not a time for giving. It's time to body young Koso. Michael Amini, UK. Good morning, Mama V and Rolla. It's unfortunate for a whole former chief of staff and former appointees of the erstwhile Mahama-led government who should know better to throng the court premises to show solidarity and support for Stephen Opini for corruption charges. And also, it clearly shows that the NDC doesn't believe in their own principles of probity and accountability anymore. The conduct of these past NDC appointees and party full soldiers is a fruitless exercise, blah, 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 blah. Michael Amini,
this is not unusual. When you have a case in court, anybody could decide to be there and support you. And I think in these times, you actually need people to be there for you as well.
Okay, I have this one, AM show.
Yeah.
Shatawale is an alien. Hey.
Shatta wine.
Freedom.
Shatta.
Freedom.
Shatta.
Freedom.
Shatta.
Sports.
Okay.
Up next.
Namani Kenya babenye mahali fan.
Over on kwa ko wa bia.
Me onukwa ejino.
Abenye wo yin so abenye le gbe.
CJ party nini?
Over Arabia ge NDC so npa ko.
Okay. No anya Kenya fenye.
Over
ni bo